It was just another Tuesday evening in Mesa, Arizona, when I decided to step out of my comfort zone and join a local book club. As the HR manager at a bustling tech firm, I, Vivian Thompson, was desperate for an escape from the never-ending cycle of workplace drama and corporate politics. Little did I know that this simple decision would change my life forever. The warm desert breeze caressed my face as I made my way to the quaint bookstore where the club met. My shoulder-length blonde hair, usually perfectly styled for the office, was slightly tousled from the wind. I smoothed down my navy blue blouse and took a deep breath before pushing open the door. The bell above the entrance chimed softly, announcing my arrival. A small group of people was already gathered in a cozy corner, their animated chatter filling the air. As I approached, my eyes were drawn to a striking woman with cascading chestnut hair and piercing green eyes. She looked up, meeting my gaze, and I felt an inexplicable flutter in my chest. "Welcome," she called out, her voice warm and inviting. "You must be Vivian, I'm Lindsay." I smiled, trying to ignore the sudden dryness in my throat. "Nice to meet you, Lindsay. Yes, I'm the new member." As I took a seat across from her, I couldn't help but notice how her emerald eyes sparkled with intelligence and curiosity. Lindsay introduced me to the rest of the group, but I found myself constantly drawn back to her animated gestures and infectious laugh. The discussion that evening centered around a romance novel, and I found myself struggling to concentrate on the plot points. Instead, my attention kept drifting to Lindsay's elegant hands as she gestured emphatically, the way her lips curved into a soft smile when someone made a particularly insightful comment. "What did you think about the protagonist's decision at the end, Vivian?" Lindsay's questions snapped me out of my reverie. I cleared my throat, desperately trying to recall the book's conclusion. "I think it was brave," I ventured, hoping my answer wasn't completely off base. "Sometimes we have to take risks to find true happiness." Lindsay's eyes lit up and she leaned forward slightly. "Exactly, I couldn't agree more. It's all about seizing opportunities when they present themselves, isn't it?" As our eyes locked, I felt a jolt of electricity course through me. There was something in her gaze that seemed to speak directly to my soul, as if she could see right through my carefully constructed professional facade. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of literary discussions and stolen glances. As the meeting drew to a close, I found myself lingering, reluctant to leave Lindsay's presence. "I'm so glad you joined us tonight, Vivian," Lindsay said, as we gathered our things. "Your insights were really refreshing. I hope we'll see you again next week?" "Absolutely," I replied, perhaps a bit too eagerly. I wouldn't miss it. As I stepped out into the cool night air, my mind was reeling. I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, something that went beyond a simple book club meeting. Lindsay's face kept flashing in my mind, her melodious laughter echoing in my ears. On the drive home, I tried to rationalize my feelings. It was just excitement over making new friends, I told myself. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. The connection I felt with Lindsay was unlike anything I'd experienced before, and it both thrilled and terrified me. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything I thought I knew about myself, my desires, and the true meaning of love. In the days following that fateful book club meeting, I found myself daydreaming about Lindsay more often than I cared to admit. Her radiant smile and those captivating green eyes haunted my thoughts, disrupting my usually laser-focused work ethic. I caught myself staring blankly at my computer screen, lost in vivid fantasies of running my fingers through her chestnut hair. It wasn't just her physical beauty that entranced me, though. There was something about Lindsay's quick wit and infectious enthusiasm that drew me in like a moth to a flame. I found myself counting down the days until our next book club meeting, eagerly anticipating the chance to see her again. When Tuesday finally rolled around, I spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing my outfit. I settled on a deep burgundy blouse that brought out the warm tones in my blonde hair and made my blue eyes pop. As I applied a touch of lipstick, I tried to quell the butterflies in my stomach. "Get it together, Vivian," I muttered to my reflection. "It's just a book club." But as soon as I walked into the bookstore and saw Lindsay, I knew it was so much more than that. She beamed at me, waving me over to an empty seat next to her. "Vivian, I saved you a spot," she said, her voice sending a shiver down my spine. As I sat down, I caught a whiff of her perfume, an intoxicating blend of jasmine and vanilla that made my head spin. Our shoulders brushed as we leaned in to discuss the book, and I felt a jolt of electricity at the contact. The meeting flew by in a blur of animated discussion and shared laughter. I found myself opening up more than I had in years, sharing personal anecdotes and opinions I usually kept to myself. Lindsay listened intently, her eyes never leaving mine, making me feel like the most fascinating person in the world. As the group began to disperse, Lindsay turned to me with a mischievous glint in her eye. "Hey, wanna grab a coffee? I'd love to continue our discussion about the author's use of symbolism." My heart skipped a beat. "I'd love to," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. We found a cozy corner booth in a nearby cafe, our knees almost touching under the small table. The conversation flowed effortlessly, moving from literature to our personal lives. I learned that Lindsay was an artist, her passion evident as she described her latest projects. I found myself sharing stories about my work in HR, surprised at how interested she seemed in the minutiae of corporate life. Hours passed without us noticing, the cafe slowly emptying around us. It wasn't until the barista politely informed us they were closing that we realized how late it had gotten. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," Lindsay laughed, gathering her things. "I completely lost track of time." "Me too," I admitted, reluctant for our time together to end. As we stood outside the cafe, neither of us seemed eager to say goodbye. Lindsay bit her lip, a gesture I was quickly coming to find irresistible. "This was really nice, Vivian. Would you maybe want to do it again sometime? Outside of book club, I mean?" My heart soared. "I'd love that," I said, trying to keep my excitement in check. We exchanged numbers, our fingers lingering as we handed each other our phones. As I watched Lindsay walk away, her hair swaying gently in the evening breeze, I felt a mix of exhilaration and terror. What was happening to me? Over the next few weeks, Lindsay and I began meeting regularly outside of book club. We explored art galleries, tried new restaurants, and took long walks in the park. With each encounter, I felt myself falling deeper under her spell. One evening, as we strolled along a quiet path, our hands brushed against each other. Instead of pulling away, Lindsay intertwined her fingers with mine. The simple gesture sent a spark of desire through my body, and I had to resist the urge to pull her close and kiss her right then and there. As we paused to admire the sunset, Lindsay turned to me, her eyes shimmering in the fading light. "Vivian," she said softly, "I hope I'm not misreading things, but I really like you, as more than just a friend." My breath caught in my throat. This was the moment I'd been simultaneously longing for and dreading. I knew that once I admitted my feelings, there would be no going back. The professional part of my brain screamed at me to back away, to protect myself from the potential fallout of getting involved with my boss's daughter. But as I looked into Lindsay's hopeful eyes, I knew I couldn't deny my heart any longer. "I like you too, Lindsay," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "So much." She smiled, relief and joy lighting up her face. Slowly she leaned in, giving me plenty of time to pull away if I wanted to. But I didn't want to. I met her halfway, our lips connecting in a soft, tentative kiss that quickly deepened into something more passionate. As we broke apart, both slightly breathless, I knew my life had irrevocably changed. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them, as long as I had Lindsay by my side. The weeks following that magical sunset kiss were a whirlwind of stolen moments and secret rendezvous. Lindsay and I found ourselves drawn to each other like magnets, constantly seeking opportunities to be alone together. Our book club meetings became an exquisite form of torture, filled with meaningful glances and subtle touches that set my skin ablaze. One evening, Lindsay invited me over to her apartment for a private dinner. As I stood outside her door, my heart raced with anticipation. I smoothed down my forest green dress, taking a deep breath before knocking. Lindsay opened the door, and my breath caught in my throat. She was stunning in a simple black dress that hugged her curves in all the right places. Her chestnut hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her green eyes sparkled with warmth. "Vivian," she breathed, pulling me into a tight embrace. "I'm so glad you're here." The apartment was bathed in soft candlelight, and the aroma of something delicious wafted from the kitchen. Lindsay had prepared an intimate dinner for two, complete with a bottle of expensive red wine. As we ate, our conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated by lingering looks and gentle caresses. The air between us crackled with tension, every innocent touch feeling like a promise of more to come. After dinner, Lindsay led me to the living room, where we settled on the couch, our bodies instinctively drawing closer. She tucked a strand of my blonde hair behind my ear, her fingers trailing along my jawline. "You're so beautiful," she murmured, her eyes dark with desire. I leaned into her touch, my heart pounding. "Lindsay," I whispered, my voice husky with want. She leaned in, her lips barely brushing against mine. The feather-like contact sent shivers down my spine, and I found myself aching for more. Just as I was about to deepen the kiss, Lindsay's phone buzzed loudly, startling us both. She glanced at the screen and sighed. "It's my father," she explained apologetically. "I should take this." As Lindsay stepped away to answer the call, I tried to calm my racing heart. The interruption had brought me crashing back to reality, reminding me of the complications that lay ahead. Lindsay wasn't just any woman, she was the daughter of my boss, the CEO of the company where I worked. When Lindsay returned, her expression was troubled. "I'm sorry about that," she said, settling back beside me. "My father wants me to attend a company event next week. He mentioned you'll be there too." The thought of seeing Lindsay in a professional setting, with her father present, sent a jolt of anxiety through me. How would we act around each other? Would we be able to hide our growing feelings? "Vivian," Lindsay said softly, sensing my unease. "I know this is complicated. If you want to slow things down, I understand." I looked into her eyes, seeing the vulnerability there. Despite my fears, I knew I couldn't walk away from what we were building. "No," I said firmly, taking her hand in mine. "I don't want to slow down. We'll figure this out together." Relief washed over Lindsay's face, and she pulled me close, capturing my lips in a searing kiss. This time, there were no interruptions as we lost ourselves in each other, our kisses growing more heated and desperate. As Lindsay's hands roamed my body, igniting sparks of pleasure wherever they touched, I felt a moment of panic. Was I ready to take this step? As if sensing my hesitation, Lindsay pulled back slightly, her eyes searching mine. "We don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with," she assured me, her voice gentle. Her consideration only made me want her more. "I want this," I whispered, pulling her back to me. "I want you." What followed was a night of passionate exploration, our bodies moving together in perfect harmony. Lindsay's touch was both tender and electrifying, awakening desires I never knew I had. As we lay tangled in each other's arms afterward, I felt a sense of completeness I'd never experienced before. But as the afterglow faded, reality began to creep back in. I thought about the upcoming company event, about facing Lindsay's father while harboring this secret. The professional part of me knew I should put some distance between us, protect my career and reputation. Yet as I looked at Lindsay peacefully sleeping beside me, I knew I couldn't do it. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever risks we faced, I was all in. The connection we shared was too precious, too rare to let go. As I drifted off to sleep, I made a silent promise to myself and to Lindsay. We would face whatever came our way together, no matter the cost. Little did I know that our resolve would soon be tested in ways we could never have imagined. The day of the company event arrived with an air of nervous anticipation. I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, smoothing down my sleek black dress and adjusting my hair for the umpteenth time. My stomach was a knot of anxiety, not just from the prospect of mingling with the company's upper echelons, but from knowing I'd be seeing Lindsay in a professional setting for the first time since our relationship had evolved. As I entered the grand ballroom of the Mesa Ritz-Carlton, my eyes immediately sought her out. Lindsay was a vision in a deep blue gown that made her green eyes pop. Our gazes locked across the room, and for a moment, the world around us faded away. Then reality came crashing back as I noticed the distinguished older man standing beside her, her father, CEO Richard Harper. I made my way through the crowd, greeting colleagues and trying to maintain my composure. When I finally reached Lindsay and her father, my heart was pounding so loudly I was sure they could hear it. "Ah, Vivian," Mr. Harper said, his tone cordial but distant. "Glad you could make it. I believe you know my daughter, Lindsay?" Lindsay's eyes danced with suppressed mirth as she extended her hand. "It's a pleasure to see you again, Ms. Thompson," she said, her formal tone belied by the warmth in her gaze. As we shook hands, I felt that familiar spark of electricity. It took every ounce of self-control not to pull her into my arms right then and there. The evening progressed in a haze of small talk and networking. I found myself constantly aware of Lindsay's presence, my body attuned to her every movement. We circled each other like planets in orbit, always close but never quite touching. As the night wore on, the live band struck up a slower tune. Couples began to filter onto the dance floor, and I saw Lindsay approaching me with determination in her eyes. "Miss Thompson," she said, loud enough for those nearby to hear, "would you care to dance? I'd love to discuss some ideas for the company's new wellness initiative." Before I could respond, she had taken my hand and led me to the dance floor. As we began to sway to the music, Lindsay's hand on my waist sent shivers down my spine. "I've been wanting to do this all night," she murmured, her breath warm against my ear. "Lindsay," I whispered back, "we shouldn't. Your father is on the other side of the room," she finished. "Just relax, Vivian. We're just two colleagues having a friendly dance." But as we moved together, our bodies pressed close. It was anything but friendly. The tension between us was palpable, every touch charged with unspoken desire. I could feel Lindsay's heart racing, matching the frantic beat of my own. As the song reached its crescendo, Lindsay's eyes met mine, dark with longing. In that moment, I forgot about the crowded room, about her father, about the potential consequences. All I could think about was how badly I wanted to kiss her. Almost as if she could read my mind, Lindsay began to lean in. Our lips were mere inches apart when suddenly, a booming voice cut through the moment. "Lindsay, darling," it was her father approaching with a group of board members. "Come here, I want you to meet some people." We sprang apart, guilt and frustration warring on Lindsay's face. As she was whisked away, I made my escape to a secluded balcony, needing a moment to collect myself. The cool night air helped clear my head, but did nothing to quell the ache in my chest. I was so lost in thought that I didn't hear the balcony door open behind me. "Vivian?" Lindsay's soft voice startled me. "Are you okay?" I turned to face her, drinking in the sight of her silhouetted against the warm light from inside. "I don't know," I admitted. "This is all so complicated." Lindsay stepped closer, taking my hands in hers. "I know," she said. "But Vivian, what I feel for you, it's worth any complication." Her words broke something loose inside me. With a soft cry, I pulled her to me, capturing her lips in a desperate kiss. Lindsay responded immediately, her arms wrapping around me as she deepened the kiss. We lost ourselves in each other, the party forgotten. It wasn't until we heard the balcony door open again that we broke apart, breathless and flushed. To my horror, Richard Harper stood in the doorway, his expression a mix of shock and dawning anger. "Dad," Lindsay gasped. "I can explain." But her father held up a hand, silencing her. His cold gaze settled on me. "Miss Thompson," he said, his voice like ice, "I think it's time you left." As I hurried past him, shame and fear coursing through me, I caught one last glimpse of Lindsay. The look of determination on her face gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, we could weather this storm. But as I drove home, my mind racing with the potential fallout of our revelation, I couldn't shake the feeling that our lives were about to become much more complicated. Little did I know that the true test of our love was yet to come, in a form neither of us could have anticipated. The days following the company event were a blur of anxiety and stolen moments with Lindsay. We agreed to keep our relationship discreet while we figured out how to navigate the complicated waters of our personal and professional lives. Every stolen kiss, every secret touch felt both thrilling and terrifying, knowing the potential consequences that loomed over us. Lindsay had managed to smooth things over with her father, at least temporarily. She told him we were just friends, that the moment on the balcony was a misunderstanding. I wasn't sure if he believed her, but he seemed willing to let the matter drop for now. Still, I could feel his scrutinizing gaze on me whenever our paths crossed at work, and it made my skin crawl with unease. Despite the challenges, Lindsay and I found ourselves growing closer. We'd meet in out-of-the-way cafes, take long drives into the desert, or spend quiet evenings at my apartment. Always careful to avoid being seen together in public. The secrecy was exhausting, but it also added a layer of excitement to our relationship, making each moment we shared feel precious and stolen. One balmy evening, we were cuddled up on my couch, the remnants of a takeout dinner scattered on the coffee table. Lindsay's head rested on my shoulder, her chestnut hair tickling my neck as I absently ran my fingers through it. "Vivian," she murmured, her voice soft and contemplative. "Do you ever think about the future, about us?" I tensed slightly, my hand stilling in her hair. It was a loaded question, one that I'd been both longing for and dreading. "All the time," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Lindsay shifted, propping herself up to look into my eyes. The intensity of her gaze made my breath catch. "I want a future with you," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "I know it won't be easy, but I'm willing to fight for us. Are you?" In that moment, looking into her earnest green eyes, I knew my answer with absolute certainty. "Yes," I breathed, pulling her closer. "Yes, I am." Our lips met in a kiss that was both tender and passionate, filled with promises for the future. As things began to heat up, my phone buzzed insistently on the side table. I groaned, ready to ignore it, but Lindsay pulled back with a small smile. "You should get that," she said. "It might be important." Grumbling good-naturedly, I reached for my phone. The number was unfamiliar, but something made me answer it anyway. "Hello? Is this Vivian Thompson?" a grave voice asked. "Yes, this is she," I replied, a sense of unease creeping over me. "Ms. Thompson, this is Officer Martinez from the Mesa Police Department. I'm calling about Lindsay Harper. There's been an accident." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as I listened to the officer's words. Lindsay had been in a car accident on her way home. She was alive but seriously injured, currently in surgery at Mesa General Hospital. I must have made some sort of sound because suddenly Lindsay was there, her arms around me, her voice worried. "Vivian? What's wrong? What happened?" I relayed the information in a shaky voice, watching as the color drained from Lindsay's face. "No," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "No, there must be some mistake." But there was no mistake. In a daze, we rushed to the hospital, my mind racing with terrifying scenarios. The waiting room was a special kind of hell, each minute stretching into an eternity as we waited for news. Hours passed before a tired-looking doctor emerged. "Family of Lindsay Harper?" he called. I started to stand, but a commotion at the entrance stopped me. Richard Harper burst into the waiting room, his face a mask of worry and fatigue. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and I saw the recognition and then the anger flash across his features. "I'm Lindsay's father," he said to the doctor, pointedly ignoring my presence. "How is she?" The doctor's words washed over me in a blur of medical jargon. Severe injuries, internal bleeding, critical but stable. The only thing that truly registered was that Lindsay was alive, and that's all that mattered. As Richard followed the doctor to see Lindsay, I sank back into my chair, my legs no longer able to support me. The reality of the situation hit me like a freight train. Lindsay, my beautiful, vibrant Lindsay, was fighting for her life, and there was nothing I could do but wait. Hours passed in a haze of bad coffee and worse thoughts. Nurses came and went, but no one could give me any information since I wasn't family. It was nearly dawn when Richard Harper emerged from the ICU, looking haggard and years older. His eyes landed on me, narrowing slightly. For a moment I thought he might order me to leave. Instead, he sighed heavily and sank into the chair next to mine. "She's asking for you," he said, his voice gruff with emotion and exhaustion. I looked at him, surprised and hopeful. Can I see her?" He nodded once, sharply. 5 minutes, he said. "That's all I'm allowing." As I stood on shaky legs, ready to follow a nurse to Lindsay's room, Richard's hand on my arm stopped me. "Miss Thompson," he said, his voice low and intense. "We will be having a very serious conversation about all of this. Soon." I nodded, understanding the implied threat but too worried about Lindsay to care at that moment. As I walked towards Lindsay's room, my heart pounding with equal parts fear and anticipation, I knew that whatever came next would change everything. But for now, all that mattered was seeing Lindsay, holding her hand, and telling her how much I loved her. The future was uncertain, fraught with challenges I couldn't even begin to imagine. But as I prepared to face whatever lay ahead, one thing was crystal clear. My love for Lindsay was worth any struggle, any sacrifice. And I was ready to fight for it with everything I had. The harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor seemed to buzz in sync with my racing heart as I approached Lindsay's room. My hand trembled as I pushed open the door, steeling myself for what I might find inside. The sight that greeted me nearly brought me to my knees. Lindsay lay motionless in the hospital bed, her vibrant beauty muted by an array of tubes and wires. Her usually radiant skin was pale and marred by cuts and bruises. But as I drew closer, her eyes fluttered open, and I saw a spark of recognition in those emerald depths I loved so much. "Vivian," she whispered, her voice hoarse and weak. "You're here." I rushed to her side, carefully taking her hand in mine. "Of course I'm here," I murmured, fighting back tears. "I'll always be here." A ghost of a smile touched Lindsay's lips. "I was so scared," she admitted. "When the car hit me, all I could think about was you, and how I might never see you again." My heart clenched at her words. "I'm here now," I reassured her, gently stroking her cheek. "And I'm not going anywhere." We spent the next few minutes in quiet conversation, our words soft and filled with emotion. I told her how much I loved her, how grateful I was that she was alive. Lindsay, despite her weakened state, managed to convey her own feelings of love and devotion. All too soon, a nurse appeared at the door, signaling that my time was up. I reluctantly stood, promising Lindsay I'd be back as soon as they'd let me. As I turned to leave, her hand caught mine. "Vivian," she said, her voice suddenly stronger. "No matter what happens, no matter what my father says or does, I choose you. Remember that." Tears pricked my eyes as I nodded, giving her hand one last squeeze before leaving the room. In the hallway, I found Richard Harper waiting for me, his face a storm of conflicting emotions. Without a word, he gestured for me to follow him to a small, private waiting area. As soon as the door closed behind us, he turned to face me, his eyes blazing with a mixture of anger and confusion. "Explain yourself, Miss Thompson," he demanded. "What exactly is the nature of your relationship with my daughter?" I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. This was the moment of truth, and I knew I had to be honest, both for Lindsay's sake and my own. "Mr. Harper," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "I love your daughter. We're in a relationship, and it's not just some fling or experiment. What we have is real and meaningful." Richard's face hardened. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" he hissed. "The scandal this could cause? The damage to both your careers?" "With all due respect, sir," I countered, finding strength in my conviction. "Lindsay and I are both consenting adults. Our personal lives shouldn't impact our professional capabilities." He scoffed. "Don't be naive, Vivian. You know as well as I do that perception is everything in our industry. How do you think our clients, our board members will react when they find out my HR manager is sleeping with my daughter?" I flinched at his crude characterization but stood my ground. "Mr. Harper, I understand your concerns, but I can assure you that our relationship has never interfered with our work. If anything, it's made us both more committed to excelling in our roles." Richard paced the small room, running a hand through his graying hair. "And what about Lindsay's future?" he asked, his voice softer now, tinged with worry. "Have you considered what this could mean for her career prospects?" The question gave me pause. Had I been selfish in pursuing this relationship? Was I holding Lindsay back from reaching her full potential? But then I remembered Lindsay's words from just moments ago. "I choose you." "Sir," I said, my voice firm. "I believe in Lindsay's talent and drive. She's capable of achieving greatness on her own merits, regardless of who she's in a relationship with, and I will support her every step of the way." Richard studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed heavily. "I can see that you care for her," he admitted grudgingly. "But this situation, it's complicated. I need time to process all of this." I nodded, understanding his position even as I bristled at the implication that our love was something to be processed. "For now," Richard continued, "I won't take any action regarding your employment. But I expect absolute professionalism from you at work, and if I see any hint that this relationship is affecting company dynamics, we'll be having a very different conversation. Is that clear?" "Crystal clear, sir," I replied, relief washing over me. It wasn't acceptance, but it was a start. As I turned to leave, Richard's voice stopped me. "Vivian," he said, his tone softer than before, "thank you for being here for Lindsay. Whatever my personal feelings about your relationship, I can see that your presence brings her comfort. And right now, that's what matters most." I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. "Thank you, Mr. Harper. I promise I'll do everything in my power to support Lindsay's recovery." As I walked back to Lindsay's room, my mind was reeling from the confrontation. I knew we weren't out of the woods yet, but for now, we had a reprieve. And as I settled into the chair beside Lindsay's bed, taking her hand in mine, I felt a renewed sense of determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever obstacles we might face, I knew that our love was strong enough to weather the storm. As I watched Lindsay's peaceful sleeping face, I made a silent vow to fight for our relationship with every fiber of my being. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with professional and personal hurdles, but as long as I had Lindsay by my side, I knew we could face anything. Our love story was far from over. In fact, I realized it was just beginning. The weeks following Lindsay's accident were a blur of hospital visits, rehabilitation sessions, and stolen moments of intimacy. I spent every available moment by her side, watching with a mixture of awe and admiration, as she fought her way back to health with unwavering determination. Lindsay's recovery was slow but steady. Each small victory, from her first steps post-surgery to regaining full movement in her arms, was celebrated as if she'd won an Olympic medal. I found myself falling even deeper in love with her, marveling at her strength and resilience in the face of adversity. As Lindsay's health improved, so did our relationship. The shared trauma of the accident had brought us closer, cementing our commitment to each other. We spent long hours talking about our future, dreaming of a life together beyond the sterile walls of the hospital. One particularly memorable evening, as I was helping Lindsay with her physical therapy exercises in her hospital room, she looked up at me with those captivating green eyes and said, "You know, I think this accident was a blessing in disguise." I raised an eyebrow, surprised. "How so?" She smiled, intertwining her fingers with mine. "It made me realize what truly matters in life, and Vivian, you matter more to me than anything else. I don't want to hide anymore. I want to face the world with you by my side, come what may." My heart swelled with emotion. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You know it won't be easy." Lindsay's grip on my hand tightened. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. That night, as I drove home from the hospital, I felt a newfound sense of purpose and determination. Lindsay and I were in this together, and nothing, not her father's disapproval, not societal judgment, not even near-death experiences, could tear us apart. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity as we prepared for Lindsay's discharge from the hospital. I threw myself into making my apartment as comfortable and accessible as possible for her, knowing she'd need a place to stay during her continued recovery. The day Lindsay was released was both exciting and nerve-wracking. As I helped her into my car, I could feel the weight of Richard Harper's gaze on us. He had been civil, if not warm, during Lindsay's hospital stay, but I knew he was far from accepting our relationship. "Are you sure about this, Lindsay?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. "You know you're welcome to stay at home. We have plenty of room, and I can hire a full-time nurse." Lindsay's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "Thanks, Dad, but I've made my decision. I want to be with Vivian." The drive to my apartment was filled with a charged silence, both of us acutely aware of the significant step we were taking. As I helped Lindsay settle into the guest room I'd prepared for her, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation about our new living arrangement. That first night together was a revelation. Despite the physical limitations imposed by Lindsay's injuries, we found new ways to express our love and desire for each other. Our touches were gentle, exploratory, filled with a tenderness that brought tears to my eyes. As we lay tangled in each other's arms afterward, Lindsay's head resting on my chest, I felt a sense of completeness I'd never experienced before. "I love you," I whispered into her hair, my voice thick with emotion. "I love you too," she murmured back, pressing a soft kiss to my collarbone. The days that followed settled into a comfortable routine. I'd go to work, my mind constantly drifting to thoughts of Lindsay, then rush home to spend every possible moment with her. We'd cook dinner together, Lindsay perched on a stool in the kitchen as I moved around her, or spend quiet evenings reading aloud to each other. As Lindsay's strength returned, we began venturing out more. At first, it was just short walks in the nearby park, but soon we were brave enough to go out for dinner or to catch a movie. Each public outing felt like a small act of defiance against those who might judge us. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were moments of frustration as Lindsay struggled with the limitations of her recovering body. There were tense phone calls with her father, who still hadn't fully come to terms with our relationship. And there were whispers and stares when we were out in public, some curious, others disapproving. But through it all, our love only grew stronger. We faced each challenge together, finding strength in our connection and unwavering support for each other. One evening, about 2 months after Lindsay had moved in, we were cuddled up on the couch, a half-empty bottle of wine on the coffee table in front of us. Lindsay turned to me, her eyes shining with a mix of love and mischief. "Vivian," she said, her voice low and husky, "I think it's time we christen every room in this apartment properly, don't you?" A thrill of desire shot through me at her words. "Are you sure you're up for that?" I asked, both concerned for her health and excited by the prospect. Lindsay's answer came in the form of a passionate kiss that left me breathless. As we made our way to the bedroom, shedding clothes along the way, I marveled at how far we'd come. From secret glances at book club meetings to this. A love so deep and true it made my heart ache with joy. That night, as we explored each other with renewed passion and intimacy, I knew that whatever challenges the future held, we would face them together. Our love had been tested by near tragedy, family disapproval, and societal judgment, and it had emerged stronger than ever. As I drifted off to sleep, Lindsay's warm body curled against mine, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. For the twist of fate that had brought us together, for the strength we'd found in each other, and for the love that continued to grow between us with each passing day. As the golden Arizona sun peeked through the curtains of our bedroom, I found myself marveling at how much had changed in the past year. Lindsay and I had weathered storms that would have torn many couples apart, emerging on the other side stronger and more in love than ever. The day started like any other, with Lindsay's warm body curled against mine, her chestnut hair splayed across the pillow. But there was an undercurrent of excitement in the air, a sense of anticipation that made my heart race. Today was the day of our commitment ceremony. We had decided against a traditional wedding, opting instead for an intimate gathering of our closest friends and family. It wasn't legally binding, same-sex marriage was still a contentious issue in Arizona, but to us, it meant everything. As I helped Lindsay zip up her elegant white dress, my fingers lingering on the soft skin of her back, I couldn't help but reflect on our journey. The secret glances at book club meetings, the stolen kisses in dark corners, the heart-wrenching days in the hospital, all of it had led us to this moment. "You look beautiful," I murmured, pressing a soft kiss to her shoulder. Lindsay turned, her green eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "So do you," she replied, running her hands down the front of my tailored suit. "Are you ready for this?" I took a deep breath, squeezing her hands in mine. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. The ceremony was being held in the backyard of our new home, a charming bungalow we had bought together just a month ago. As we stepped out onto the patio, hand in hand, I was struck by the beauty of the scene before us. Rows of white chairs were arranged on the lush grass, occupied by smiling faces of friends and colleagues. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees, casting a soft glow over everything. And at the end of the makeshift aisle stood our officiant, a close friend who had supported our relationship from the beginning. But what truly took my breath away was the sight of Richard Harper, Lindsay's father, standing in the front row. His presence had been uncertain until the last minute, and seeing him there, a tentative smile on his face, filled me with hope for the future. As we made our way down the aisle, the soft strains of our favorite song playing in the background, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. This was where we were meant to be, surrounded by love and acceptance. The ceremony itself was a blur of emotion. We exchanged vows we had written ourselves, promises of love, support, and unwavering commitment. As I slipped the ring onto Lindsay's finger, my hands trembling slightly, I saw the same mix of joy and disbelief in her eyes that I felt in my heart. "I now pronounce you partners in life and love," our officiant declared, her voice ringing out across the yard. The crowd erupted in cheers as Lindsay and I shared our first kiss as a committed couple. The reception that followed was a joyous celebration of love in all its forms. We danced under the stars, shared cake with our guests, and basked in the warmth of acceptance from our chosen family. As the night wore on, I found myself in a quiet corner with Richard Harper. He looked at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable, before finally speaking. "I won't pretend this has been easy for me," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "But seeing Lindsay so happy, I can't deny that you're good for her. Welcome to the family, Vivian." Tears pricked my eyes as I accepted his outstretched hand. It wasn't a full embrace of our relationship, but it was a start, a bridge being built between the past and the future. Later, as Lindsay and I swayed gently to the last song of the night, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. From that first spark of connection at the book club to the trials we had faced together, every moment had shaped us into the couple we were today. "What are you thinking about?" Lindsay murmured, her head resting on my shoulder. I pulled her closer, inhaling the familiar scent of her perfume. "I'm thinking about how lucky I am," I replied, "and how excited I am for our future together." Lindsay lifted her head, her green eyes meeting mine with a look of such love and devotion that it made my heart skip a beat. Our story is just beginning, she said softly, before capturing my lips in a tender kiss. As the last notes of the song faded away, I knew she was right. This ceremony wasn't an ending, but a new chapter in our ongoing love story. There would be challenges ahead, society's prejudices to overcome, family dynamics to navigate, and the everyday trials of building a life together. But as I looked into Lindsay's eyes, saw the love and determination shining there, I knew we could face anything as long as we were together. Our love had been forged in the fires of adversity, tempered by understanding and mutual support. It was a love that could withstand any storm, overcome any obstacle. As we made our way back to the house, surrounded by the warmth of friends and family, I felt a sense of excitement for the unknown future stretching out before us. Whatever life had in store, joy or sorrow, triumph or challenge, we would face it hand in hand, our love growing stronger with each passing day. Our story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take us next.